Hello everyone and welcome back to Genvièv TV. Today we are going to discuss the 5 qualities that magnetically attract predators and why these qualities do. Because it is time to look at reality from a different perspective and finally shed light on something which is vastly misunderstood. And that is that it is not your weakness but your very strength that attracts malignant personality disordered individuals, narcissists, and other predators to you, like the dead run after the light or moth straight into a flame. You were not broken and exposed when they found you, usually quite the opposite, but they certainly made you believe that you were, after doing everything they possibly could to destroy your spirit, your life, your safety, your career, your relationship, and overall extinguish your flame. This is important to understand because there's a vast misconception out there that target of abuse are at fault for the abuse that they receive. And that is very critical of a misconception because abusers will do everything they possibly can to destroy your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-image, your strength, your trust in yourself and in others, even lead you to question your own reality. And by the time you become aware of the damage, it is so deep that you find yourself usually robbed of your strength, of your resources, of your network. This makes us very vulnerable at the stage of that abuse. Manipulative, exploitative, abusive individuals in general are attracted to the strength they see in others. They hunt successful, kind, sociable, agreeable people to enter into a relationship with them. They enjoy the challenge of seeing somebody who they look at and perceive in a position that is of higher value than their own, and thrive off the chaos and destruction that they will create in that person's life. It is not that they're jealous of the life you have, but quite rather simply they want what you have. And when a narcissist or a predator disappears from your life, they truly leave destruction and chaos in their wake through their love bombing, gaslighting, mind game, and manipulations. They manage to turn you eventually into a shell of your former self, utterly obliterated and left to pick up the pieces of everything that they destroyed in the process of getting close to you. Predators, whether they are narcissists, sociopath, psychopath, or whatever the case may be, are attracted to what makes another person shine. Their strength, their integrity, their success, their career, their circle of friends, their assets or their wealth. They're drawn to those very strengths in a person, and especially 5 specific strengths. And being abused by a predator is never your fault in any way, shape, or form. Anyone can find themselves targeted by an emotional predator. This is precisely why it is so important to understand the traits that a predator will look for to better protect yourself and cut ties early on, especially when you become aware that you are being exploited. So I want to tell you a little bit about that vast misconception in personal terms. When I was attempting to escape a very predatory situation that had robbed me of my career, my assets, my economic stability and safety, I reached out to those who I believe were in a position to help me. One of them was a family member who is extremely wealthy, an industrial magnate, and the owner of most of the businesses in his own city. In a desperate attempt to find help, I was willing to start over from ground zero and accept any low level job in order to be able to find myself away from the predator. And that person turned to me and said, "Genvièv, I'm not going to help you because as abuse victim, the first thing you will do if I help you is go back to the abuser, because that's what abuse victims do. And also because somebody of your talents, qualities, background, education, resources, capabilities, for somebody like you to find yourself in that situation, it means that you want it and you desire it. And that is such incredibly demonstrative of the lack of awareness, the lack of understanding, the complete absence of empathy that is present in very often those we turn towards. That it's nearly criminal, because it will leave an abuse victim feeling even more destroyed than ever before. When you turn towards somebody for help and you reach for your hand, and instead of grabbing your hand, they push you under, not only are you in the presence of another NPD, somebody who's clearly devoid of empathy, but it is relevant of this vast misconception that there is, that abuse victims and targets are responsible for their abuse. So I want to make this clear here today, because it's very important, if you are being exploited and abused, to understand that this is not your fault. And now let's get on to today's topic, the 5 qualities that predators will seek for in their targets, and how those qualities will and can and will be used against you by predators. Many of these qualities are wonderful when they're given a chance to flourish in the context of a healthy relationship. However, they will be exploited and manipulated against you by predators. The first one is one that we discussed last week from a different perspective, is the wound of abandonment, in terms that it creates that very strong desire, craving, and longing for love, which we were deprived in early life as victims and survivors of abuse, early life abuse, childhood trauma. We're basically deprived of the sensation of safety and stability and family and bonding and love that we so needed as little ones. And that creates in survivors of early life trauma that deep need, craving, and longing for bonding. And that also creates within us the ability to love deeply, to believe in that bond and seek and search for it. And that is targeted by predators because they will use that illusion of love bombing in the early stage by excessive flattery and praise and lies and manipulations and gifts and presents to make you believe in that ideation of having found that beautiful partner that you looked for so long. And that floods your brain, by the way, with chemical and hormonal cocktails, with all the love hormones, oxytocin that we are flooded with when we bond with someone, serotonin, dopamine. All of these good feeling hormones are flooded in your brain during the love bombing phase, create a trauma bond with the abuser, because once they start abusing you, you will crave, you will fall into that withdrawal, opiate withdrawal syndrome. It's the same thing as when a drug addict is being deprived from their drug of choice. The brain and body go into withdrawal mode, which is so incredibly painful. And that is what the trauma bonding creates, that love bombing and abuse that keeps you more and more enslaved and entrapped into that unhealthy relationship. Predators they do enjoy playing with the emotions of their victims. They know how to mirror you intensively before beginning to withdraw in order to create that fabricated soulmate illusion that leaves you depleted and addicted to them. And it is an otherwise natural human need and desire to seek for that beautiful, meaningful relationship. It's, after all, the very condition for the survival of our species. So predators play on that, and you have to be aware of that, because once you realize it's an illusion, it will become easier for you to walk away. And especially if you work with one of us with brain plasticity and brain rewiring, which my specialty, among others, is to turn an addiction into a repulsion so you can walk away and feel liberated. Number 2 is conscientiousness, perhaps one of the most overlooked qualities that predators look for. is our ability to be concerned about the safety, the welfare of others, to follow through with our obligations to others, projecting our own sense of morality onto predators, assuming they will follow through and they will fulfill their promises, which they do not, because by definition, all the qualities we have that they seek for are traits that they're entirely deprived of. They have no moral code, they have no integrity, they have no honesty, they have zero empathy. And so they seek those within us in order to draw us and secure us. Malignant predators know that our conscientiousness will allow us to give them the benefit of the doubt, to keep continuing to grant them second chance and continue to serve them at the expense of our own safety, wellness, and happiness. And our ability to have that solid conscience makes us vulnerable to narcissistic manipulation. They will use guilt, shame, and blame as weapons to keep us trapped. Number 3 is empathy. We've seen that again in a previous video on empath versus psychopath. Our empathy provides narcissistic personality disorder individuals and predators with a steady source of supply, energy, the praise, the attention, the resources that they lack themselves. This gives them emotional fuel and allows them to trap us, because it's a very empowering trait to be able to have empathy and be able to understand the need of others. However, with narcissistic and disordered and predators, we will continuously project our own good qualities into them and continuously attempt to see the perspective, to see the situation from their own perspective, continuing to forgive them and sympathize with them in spite of horrific incidents of mistreatment and abuse. So they escape accountability because of our empathy. Number 4 is integrity, honoring our word, and that makes us incredibly attractive to predators because it is not going to be within our moral code to cheat, to lie, or even to give up on a relationship, even though that relationship is harming us. So who benefits? Of course, the predator. They feel no remorse over harming their targets morally, physically, emotionally, or financially, and they count on our empathy and our code of honor to continue staying in spite of the harm that's being done onto us. And lastly, number 5 is our resilience, our ability to bounce back from abuse, which strengthens our bond, as I was talking about just a moment ago with the trauma bond, to the abuser. And resilient individuals are often survivors of childhood abuse and childhood trauma. That makes a remarkable supply for the narcissist because we're able to withstand enormous amounts of pain without giving up. That allows them to abuse us and continue to keep us trapped. Our very resilience is then used against us to keep us enslaved. And that is what is important to understand. However, the good news is all of these good qualities can be used to detach ourselves from predators. Once you understand that your own empathy needs to be number 1 turned towards yourself, towards your younger parts, the little girls, the little boys within who never were given a proper chance to experience love and joy and safety. It is your duty as an adult to turn towards those younger parts and rescue them. And this is what I work with one-on-one or in groups also with all of you, either here at my clinical and forensic center or at a distance via Skype. You can find all of my information underneath the video in the description box. There will be links to my website, genvièvhypnosis.com, links to all of my social medias. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I am everywhere. And my goal here is to use my experience, my professional and personal experience with trauma as a survivor of trauma, and as a researcher in brain plasticity and brain rewiring, as a board-certified instructor in forensic and clinical hypnosis. I use my experience to help educate you, never in step and in place of the medical field, quite the opposite. I work in close collaboration with medical providers, helping them address the conditions and symptoms of their patients which are proving resistant to change. Because once we work with your brain directly, you will find that it is fast and easy to repair repair the broken parts of your self-esteem and self-image, and allow you to walk away from toxic situations and rebuild a life that is worth living.